something to you. Now, I said this earlier this morning when we had Carter Bryant on. We talked a lot about football, which we will do a little bit in the beginning of the show here tonight. But I really hated missing the SEC tournament postgame shows. Absolutely, positively hated it. It's not going to stop us from talking about it here tonight. That's for damn sure. As we are going to recap the SEC tournament, we're going to preview the regional, tons of baseball stuff that we need to talk about. I'm going to probably go on a long rant here tonight, mainly due to the fact that we got some massive incompetency in the SEC. SEC meetings are going on right now. The new video game is starting to come out. So many different things that we got to touch on. Glad to be back, though. We were in Atlanta. My niece Morgan graduated. Would not take that away for the world. Glad to be there. Was a good time to refresh. You know, I had not been away from this studio doing shows with you in actually 15 months. So it has been good. Now, we had some family issues here and there, times we couldn't go, but that's neither here nor there. Normally, we were pretty much here, but it's good to be back. I hate that we missed the post games, but for now, at least during the regional that I think is very winnable, which we'll discuss, we will be here for you. Looking forward to that. LSU plays at 12 a.m.? 12 p.m. On Friday against Wofford. I've seen a lot of people say some really I made one statement, and now it was like the gospel was released. Everybody's like, I see this all on Twitter now. Oh, well, if you kind of look at Wofford, maybe statistically their batting average isn't as good. No shit. I told you that 48 hours ago. Which, by the way, I gave all of you a pretty big hint here a couple days ago, like 6 hours before the selection committee was posted. D1 Baseball said, LSU's going to Oklahoma State or they're going here. I just posted a GIF or GIF, whatever you like to call it. North Carolina, born and raised. Take your shirt off. Swishing around like a helicopter like my name was Petey Pablo. And a lot of you missed it. You're like, oh, we're going to NC State. No! Nevertheless, we got lots of baseball that we'll talk. We'll start to show off with some football stuff. It's going to be a very, very fun time. Cole Adams says, Blake, we missed you for Tigers baseball this weekend. Let's freaking go Tigers. Yeah, I know of all weekends to miss. And it's crazy, man. We just do so many post games at the time that they're doing good, which will be my luck is that they'll have a bad outing in this regional and I'll just be, it will suck. But it's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. But it's fine. It's cool. I still would not replace it, but we're here and we'll do it. Looking forward to this weekend. The Tigers are hot, though, man. The Tigers are hot. By the way, I'm not missed on, by the way, that there were still some of you out there that said, compared Jay Johnson to Coach O. Jesus. Oh, by the way, I heard LSU put in a super regional bid that if they win it and Arizona were to lose, Jay Johnson may be heading back to Tucson if they can win this regional, and if Arizona wins theirs, which they got a brutal one. And by the way, man, I got to admit, if you're a baseball fan, the ACC got the shaft. The ACC got some very brutal draws in their regionals. So it is what it is. I mean, if you're North Carolina, I don't know if you wanted to see LSU, but nevertheless, you get to play them. And if you want to be the man, you kind of got to beat the man. So we'll discuss that here tonight as well. BD says James Simon. We'll discuss James Simon at the end of the break here. James Simon, the running back from Shreveport. Look, man, they gave the kid an ultimatum. He decided that he was going to do his own thing, and LSU was not going to wait on him. Kid went to Texas. LSU got TJ Lindsey. That's how that played out. Dane Bertrand says, Blake, we need to take a road trip to support the Tigers in Sissy Blue Chapel Hill. Dane, I would agree with you. I just got back from a very long road trip. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty exhausted. To be real with a lot of you, I think we're just gonna do the post games from here. I'm not missing more post games. Ingrid says, I've missed my info from the best. Thank you, Ingrid, so much. We are back. Good to be in here with y'all. Anthony says, what's up, AYS family? And Blake, good to see you in here. My friend Penn Jones says, I think Mississippi State got screwed. I agree. The biggest chef job was probably Mississippi State not being a host site. Now, should they have been 1 through 8 seed? No. Should they have been through 9 through 16? Yes. Because, look, here's just the God's honest truth. You cannot convince me that UC Santa Barbara, you can't convince me that Oregon State, you can't convince me that Arizona, quite honestly, you can't convince me that some of these ACC teams face tougher competition than what they saw. That's neither here nor there. And I hate that for Mississippi State. But, look, man, in the beginning of the season, Chris Lemonis was on the hot seat. Yet anymore. It's funny how baseball works, man. Oh, speaking of Chris Lemonis and Mississippi State, it's funny because LSU broke the streak of national champions not making the postseason. Just another thing that goes overlooked when people talk about LSU. What do I know? But I do agree with Penn Jones. I do believe that Mississippi State got screwed. C. King says LSU got the best 2 backs in the state. I do agree with that. I do agree. I think James – look, I still think James Simon is a good back. But what I do think – actually, I'm not even thinking. What I know happened is that LSU gave James Simon an ultimatum. It's why I took my pick off of James Simon like 3 months ago. Okay, it's because he was given an ultimatum. LSU said, hey, man, we want you to commit. Like, can we stop playing around with here? And they went and got TJ Lindsey. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I think that James Simon's camp led him in a door. In my opinion, I think James Simon's camp led him in the wrong direction. LSU wanted him to commit. He wanted to go through this whole, on 3, look at me type deal, and it didn't. LSU goes, look, man, we got 2 really good backs. We don't need you. And that's just the truth. Sorry about you. I think the kid will wind up hitting the portal because Texas has got some really good backs. I don't think he's better than those guys there. Anthony says, ask Blake, is there a chance we could host the Supers if Arizona loses? Yeah, so obviously you got to win your regional, clearly. And if Arizona loses, you've put in the host bid site for Supers. I mean, I guess it just depends. I forget who's number 2 in the Arizona regional. So maybe somebody can correct me, but I'm pretty sure. And look, man, to answer your question, yes, I do think that they could. LSU got a favorable draw, man. It's yours for the taking. It's yours for the taking. All right, last one, then we'll get rolling. Janet says LSU needs to get out of the regional before looking forward to. So just to say something, because I think a lot of people misunderstand this. Janet, I don't disagree with you. I don't think that's what LSU's doing, but you have to put that bid in before you even win the regional, right? So, I mean, it's not like you can't win the regional and then put a bid in. That's not how that works. You got to put it in. It's dumb, but good on having the confidence. Good on having the confidence. Brad Luther on Twitter says, oh, yeah, Dallas Baptist. That's right. Golly, man, Dallas Baptist could win that. They could win that regional. Arizona's red hot, though, man. Won their conference championship on a walk-off single. I mean, they're hot right now. So, man, wouldn't it be poetic justice if Jay Johnson got to go back to Arizona and win a super regional, get back to Omaha? Tigers are hot, man. We'll talk about it. We'll start off by talking some football. Let me get through some of that stuff, and then we got a lot of baseball stuff we need to talk about here. We'll recap, preview, all that good stuff here tonight. Before we get rolling, everybody do us a favor, though, by hitting the like and share to all those groups. If you are on Facebook, share to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. We still have some Rudy Poos out there that are sending us 1 stars on Apple Podcasts and leaving bad reviews and saying, I just don't like you. Okay. And it's all coming from the same area IP address. So what I would ask, if you don't mind, there have been some Rudy Poos out there that continue to try to hurt our podcast numbers. Now, what I would tell you is mainly the reason that they're doing that is because the number one audio listen podcast is ours. Go over to Apple, go over to Spotify. If you don't mind, give us that 5-star rating, leave a review. We greatly appreciate when y'all do that. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll regroup. We got lots and lots and lots that we need to discuss. And it's going to be fun. I'm glad to be back. Let me tell you about our good friends over at Melon Hats. Guys, I tell you this. I told you this morning. I am a hat guy. I will always wear hats. It's just something that I love. I enjoy having a good hat collection, which I do. But I got to admit something. No hat is better, at least that I have discovered. No hat ever has been better than our good friends over at Melon Hats. Guys, I got to admit, you can go to their website. If you have a funky head like Carter Bryant, he's got to use his last strap. We talked about that this morning. They can find the right sized hat for you. Go over to their website. They're good for water. They're good for going out and sweating in them. They're not going to stink. They're not going to smell. They're not going to leave a lasting effect because of their microbial materials. Go over there today. Use that promo code AYS to get 30% off. Their new retro style is out. You can use that AYS code right before Father's Day, too. Looking really spiffy. So let them know that Blake sent you on by. Get your melon hat today. Sorry about our good friends at BetOnline. We got a lot to discuss, so we do that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah. We're back.
All right. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Before we start off, let me say this. I took my son Ben to the Braves game this past week. Truist Park has got to be, well, I'll just say this. It is the best baseball park I've ever been to. The Battery was awesome. The fans were awesome. The atmosphere was awesome. The game was awesome, even though the Braves lost. But unfortunately, I think that I've made a massive mistake. That mistake is that we're a Yankees household. But my son Bid had such a great time. I now think that he's a Braves fan. And I think that I messed up, but I am glad that he had fun. And so tip of the cap to the Atlanta Braves. You have a first-class organization, a first-class park. It is amazing. So if you're in the greater Atlanta area, if you're near Atlanta or maybe a couple hours away and you have not been to Truist, you need to get there. It is absolutely fantastic. Want to send our appreciation to the Atlanta Braves for how awesome they were this week. Let me get to this, though. I know we talked about it this morning, but I want to get to it again. This Lincoln Riley thing in reference to and USC not wanting to play LSU, let me just say this. Okay, we talked about it a lot this morning. Here's all I'm going to say about it in the second part of today's show. It's not – when I read that Matt Hayes report, in case you missed it, Saturday Down South was reporting Matt Hayes, who is a big-time college football guy, is reporting that USC and Lincoln Riley tried to get out of playing LSU in the opener this year. You better win it now that they weren't trying to play you, which I do think that you can, but you better beat them. I think it's such a horrible look for Lincoln Riley because a lot of Oklahoma fans said that he left because he didn't want to go to the ACC. He went to USC, even though I think it was a lot of the money that was talking more than anything. The free limit of the private jet that they have. It's just a very bad look. Why don't you want to play him? You know, one thing that I think that this state, not only just the state, but this university when it comes to Louisiana State, is that, man, we're not going to back down from anybody. And not every coach, not every program is going to be that way. And Brian Kelly, to his credit, has never backed down from a challenge. He's never said that he's going to back down from anything. He's welcomed it. And I think that, look, man, that gets so much overlooked. You know, if it came out that LSU was the team after losing 4 straight season openers that they did not want to play a team like USC, it would be cowardly, right? Like, it would be more than cowardly. Be like, well, LSU doesn't want to face the tough teams in week 1. They don't want to start off their season bad, so they want to get out of the USC game. No, they continue to do it. I know that Verge Alsbury, who has been very vocal about scheduling, I can only imagine what he said about this, if this, you know, allegedly is true, even though Matt Hayes is very good at his job. It's just such a bad look. Look, man, I want to go to Vegas. I want to play them. I want to beat them. I want the revenge from 2003, even though LSU rightfully won the national championship game. And I think that it's a very good barometer about where you are as a program. You know, Lincoln Riley could have been here. He could have decided, and LSU could have decided to make him the next head coach. You went with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley at their new schools are always going to be linked, not only because they have the same agent, but mainly due to the fact that we're both programs in year 3. I think something goes unnoticed here. In the Matt Hayes report, it was said that Lincoln Riley reached out to his agent, Trace Armstrong, who is just so happens to be the same agent that Brian Kelly uses when it comes to contracts, negotiations, stuff like that. Are you going to tell me that Trace Armstrong did not have a conversation with Scott Woodward about Lincoln Riley when LSU's head coaching vacancy came up? Are you legitimately going to tell me that? Because what it looks like, if Lincoln Riley would tell his agent to tell Brian Kelly, hey, we don't want to play this game, what was Trace Armstrong doing when it came to talking to Scott Woodward back in the day? Always interesting. I think you got the luck of the draw here with getting Brian Kelly. That's just me. It's neither here nor there. Another little small little thing, but something also that is football related that we need to get to is that James Simon, the running back from Calvary Baptist in Northern Louisiana, the running back committed to Texas today. Look, man, I mentioned it earlier. I'll mention it again. I think that this is a prototypical, as your parents probably used to say, or your grandparents used to say, shit or get off the pot situation with James Simon. I think they like TJ Lindsey and they love Harlan Berry. And they offered TJ Lindsey and said, hey, man, we think you're good enough to be here. We think that you are a really good player. Do you want to be at LSU? And he said, yeah. And James Simon, when he had the opportunity to be at LSU, called their bluff and missed. I am not saying that James Simon is never going to be a good back at Texas. I'm not saying he's not a good running back. I think his camp misled him in a lot of ways. And I left you last week in saying this, that things aren't always as they seem, especially things aren't always as they seem when it comes to recruiting, especially high school recruiting. And I will tell you this. Don't give up on this staff or this class just yet. I think LSU is going to be fine. I think they're going to be more than fine. I think you've heard from DeCorian Moore. I told you exactly how that had played out, and I have heard from their camp. And with that being said, there are some things that are being reported that are true. There are things that are being reported that aren't true based out of what their camp is saying that LSU has also told me is true and or not true. But as I told you, literally in the last show that we did before we went on vacation, things always aren't as they seem. There was a lot of reporting that LSU would just give up here. I told you that wasn't true. Things have a very interesting way when they're put in the light of coming to fruition. I'm never going to worry about this school when it comes to receiver. Ever. If you want to be at a place that produces the best wide receivers literally since 2000, you know where to be. All right. I always get that messed up. Yes, JT Lindsay. Yes, I always say TJ. I don't know why I do that every single time. Forgive me with names. Forgive me. But it doesn't change the fact of what happened with James Simon. It legitimately doesn't. It legitimately doesn't. So, yeah. Stephen Perlew says, Blake, pause. The NCAA game will have the band play neck per Matt Brown. Yeah, I still want to see that happening. I'm still fired up for it. Look, you cannot on July the 19th, you're not going to be able to tell me shit. I do think something is interesting. If you go on PlayStation, Xbox, all that stuff, to pre-order it, that the logo is Mike the Tiger. Like they're using LSU as the promo of it. Just another thing that LSU gets used as a promo of. It's time. Look, let's start the show off here. If it's time for LSU to start acting like the school that they are sometimes. Like, for example, I know that this is minute, right? But the NCAA video game that everybody continues to talk about, you can go pre-order it. I see on PlayStation today that if you pre-order it, the main thing that's on there is the Mike the Tiger, and that's what they're using as their logo for LSU. You have a great opportunity here, man, to take some things over and get to the pinnacle and the pedestal that you belong at being at a more consistent level. This year, you can do that. Now, there are some deficiencies that you have, but everybody uses LSU as the metric. When they need to sell something, they're always going to use the state. They're always going to use that program. They're always going to use that logo. They're doing it here. But there are some things that we have not done to get where we need to go. Are you going to start acting like the program that you are? Because I still agree with what the greatest coach of all time, Nick Saban, said. This is a sleeping giant. Now, I think you're a lumbering giant at the current moment, Can you be that giant that you can be? Will be the ultimate question. All right. We got some baseball talk we need to get into. We're 30 minutes into the show. Still have yet to talk about baseball. And I missed the post-game shows. Do all these freaking post-games, and one time that we really need to get to them, we're unable to do it. All right. Let's get to it. LSU had an absolutely massive and incredible SEC tournament this past week. Now, as I've mentioned, we were not able to do the post games that we normally do. We won't do that again for the regional. But you know what's interesting, man? The thing that you and I have talked about over the last 2 weeks was simple. When LSU beat Ole Miss on that Thursday, you and I discussed that there was something different, that there was a different tone, a different feel around this baseball team. Now, if you don't believe that we said that, go back to that Thursday game and post game where the conversation that you and I had consistently and the most was a sense of urgency. Now, you will remember, obviously, LSU swept Ole Miss, got to that 13-win mark, and then went into the tournament. Played Georgia. Beat them. Gage jump was absolutely fantastic. And a lot of people didn't know exactly what Jay Johnson would do, but on short rest, on 4 days' notice, comes back and absolutely delivers. Same as Luke Coleman, who went 6 scoreless innings. Not only scoreless innings, went 6 hitless innings when you run ruled, when you Kentucky, when you hit 2 grand slams. And after you did those 2 things, you start feeling better about like, hey, man, you're on a 5-game win streak. You swept the team that you needed to sweep to get to those 13 wins. Now you've gotten your 14th and 15th win in the conference. Oh, well, you're in now. And you know what's interesting? LSU could have stopped. LSU could have just said, you know what, we're in the tournament. You know, the sense of urgency gets stopped. You don't continue to put the pedal to the metal. They didn't do that. You continued to go after it and win that whole thing. You know, the games, both games versus South Carolina, when Michael Braswell, who, by the way, it doesn't miss upon me that all year, not by only this fan base to some, but other fan bases, specifically South Carolina, shit on him all year long, and the poetic justice that it was for him to come up in that last at bat and get the base hit for the Tigers to win against South Carolina in game 1. Now, that doesn't excuse the errors that he had, but the realistic nature is the dude's hitting well above 300 now and is playing very good baseball. The sense of urgency continued. You know, when you went down 8 runs in the second time that you faced South Carolina, and you're probably thinking to yourself on Saturday, man, this team really just won 3 games and is absolutely going to get just demolished and stomped by South Carolina in the second game that they face them? No, it wouldn't happen. Because the young guys in both of those games, really, the young freshman guys, the number 1 recruiting class in the country, stood up. You know, Jake Brown getting a start and hitting a home run. Ashton Larson getting a base hit to keep a rally going. Stephen Milam going 4 for 5 in a game that would propel you in getting a bye. Then obviously we come back up in game 2, hit the home run that was heard across the world, which will lead me to a Ruffino's rant in just a moment on something that you and I have talked about religiously about the SEC. But not only does it give you hope, but something has flipped with this team. I don't know what it is, but I know that we talked about it a couple Thursdays ago when they faced Ole Miss and the attention to detail was bigger. And I said to you, I didn't care that LSU won 5-1. They had better at bats. The sense of urgency was there. Something was different about that team. And the only game that you have lost in the last 8 was to the number 1 team in the country. And you're rivaling or having the same amount of wins as the number 1 team, the number 1 overall seed in Tennessee. You have 1 less win than they do, and you have 1 more loss because you lost to them in the SEC championship game in the tournament over that last month. It's something to be said about a national championship contender that comes back when their back is up against the wall, the pit bull is in the corner, has nowhere to go, that fights their way out of it to get to the postseason. Something clicked. Good on Jay Johnson for continuing to rally this team. You know, it could have been easy to just give up and not want to go back out there and beat South Carolina, not once but twice. You hanging in there with the number 1 team in the country in Tennessee like you did. You give up 1 big home run. Billy Amick is 0 for 17. Unfortunately, you leave a pitch over the plate. It gets sent. Maybe Nate Atkinhausen should have stayed in the game. That's neither here nor there. But, guys, you're one of the best. Right now, you have gotten hot when you needed to. And that is what all baseball is. You know, the Arizona Diamondbacks last year made it to a World Series. They weren't the best team during the regular season at all last year. Trust me, I watch a lot of baseball. This studio is filled with baseball being played right now. But when a team gets hot and a team is focused and that sense of urgency goes up, you knew that this team had the talent. You knew that this team had a staff that could compete. And now you're starting to see it. This, to me, arguably, now we've had a lot, but this team, arguably, to me, over the last 8 games, it's got to be one of the funner teams that I've ever covered. Because I love a team that when everything is on the line, and guys, quite honestly, over these last 8, everything was on the line for what you're playing for. You know, Jay talked about that every game was a game 7, and it started on that Thursday. And, man, is it fun to root for a team that competes and does something that some people thought that they couldn't do. Gonna be honest, man, I didn't think you could sweep Ole Miss, but you did. I didn't know if you can go on that run in the tournament like you did, but you did. It was a hell of a week. The question becomes now, can you flip that script? Now, you have an injury and a massive injury. What's the status of Christian Little? He is going to be a massive, or how do I want to say this? Christian Little's injury is going to be something that we have to monitor at great length because of what he's done for you. You need him. You're going to need him this weekend more than ever because you're facing some teams that can really hit. But in reference to this tournament, and not even before the tournament, the weekend before the tournament, this year has been a lot of downs, right? Like the first 4 weekends of SEC play sucked if you're an LSU baseball fan. But guys, over this last month, you got to give it to them, man. They have been as good of a team as there has been. And they've done exactly what they needed to do. Facing the number 2 and number 1 overall seeds, facing 3 top 8 seeds and beating all of them besides Tennessee. And South Carolina is just as hot as you are. It's got to be one of the funner weeks that I've ever had. And I appreciate that. I want to say this too before we get to a little bit of a preview here, and I'll get to all your comments. So if you have thoughts, questions, concerns, you know what you can do. Put it in a super chat on YouTube. We will get to all of your questions, thoughts, concerns. If you 100% want your comment read, you can do that now. I want to say this. I've seen it said that this year, okay, has been a better coaching job by Jay Johnson than last year. And I got to admit something. I 1000% agree. 1000% agree. Because Jay's had to push a lot of buttons to get his team here, and he's done it. One thing that I told you a month ago, and will continue to say, Jay Johnson's not like your average dude, man. The likelihood that Jay Johnson retires as an LSU Tiger is extremely likely, like 99% likely, unless something world-changing, world-shattering happens. The dude is, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I can make the argument the best coach on that campus. I love Kim. I love Brian. I love a lot of those coaches. To me, he's the best because I know that I'm going to get every single ounce from Jay Johnson no matter what. Jay Johnson's going to give me everything he's got day in and day out for this program to win. I can't ask for anything more. Is he going to miss on some things? Is he going to be wrong on some things? Like the Nate Ackenhausen thing. I didn't agree with him. And the next at bat, 3-run bomb happens. I didn't agree with him. He's human. But I know that he, Ackenhausen went through one time through the lineup, wanted to change it. I get that. Fully understand what Jay was thinking there. Because he's got to be the best coach on the campus to me. You're going to argue with me? You're going to disagree with me? That's fine. I don't care. Kim's won multiple national championships. At 2 schools, she's won national championships. I don't care. I legitimately don't. Before we preview 2, I got to say this too. And believe me, that play at the plate against South Carolina is not missed upon me. I will lead this off tonight by saying, Stephen Milam, you stud. Because LSU had 3 freshmen in their lineup that at crucial times in crucial games this past week propelled you to winning both games against South Carolina. Getting hits so that Michael Braswell can come up and get a game winner. Bottom of the 9th, 2-run home run by Stephen Milam after the walk by Travinsky. Alex Milazzo putting the ball in play because you were able to extend an inning for him to lay down a bunt. That is got to be one of the fun, like as much fun as I had this week. And I got to admit, it's got to be some of the funnest time that I've had as a Tiger fan. What is not lost upon me, though, is the simple nature. You and I have had constant conversations and constant discussions in reference to the SEC. And not only about just the SEC in general, but about the SEC when it comes to umpiring and officiating. I think that Greg Sankey is the best commissioner in college sports. I don't think it's remotely close. However, I think that he has, without really realizing it, affected the conference in one major way. That is a big cloud over him that someone like me sees more than maybe anybody that wants to talk about it. It's SEC officiating and umpiring. The play at the plate for LSU versus South Carolina has got to be the dumbest, stupidest, most ignorant thing that I have ever seen in my life. Let me tell you why. Because I've seen it debated everywhere. I've seen so many people talking about it. The SEC came out and said the play at the plate when South Carolina tried to steal home and got out, that it was a balk, dead ball, run scores. At the end of the game, they said, and I'm quoting here because here's the transcript. The 4 umpires came together and reviewed it. Well, hold up. It's a non-reviewable play. So if it's a non-reviewable play, and you also said that Brady Neal stepped in front of and on the plate. Well, how did you know that? Because the initial call on the field was out, and you can't overturn it if you can't review it. Once a call stands, a call stands. Well, then Jay Johnson gets tossed, which, by the way, Jay Johnson has been tossed double the amount this year than he's had in his entire LSU career. SEC officiating and umpiring under Greg Sankey the last 5 years has plummeted. It consistently gets worse. How you overrule that and then send whatever Rudy Poo you want out there to say, well, the rule says if he steps in front of the plate or on the plate. We have video evidence that he did not do that. And the simple nature that you as a committee of people can't look at that and say, well, you know what, this is in the rule book, maybe we should overrule it. Because you were still, and this is the dumbest thing about it, you told everybody there was a non-reviewable play, even though you put the video on the guy, or ESPN put the video on the lead umpire this past week when we see him touching his ear and his microphone, talking to whoever is up in the booth, going over this play. So you did review the fucker. You did review the fucker, and you overruled it. Greg Sankey has had a massive issue with scheduling and SEC officials and umpires. He has done monumental things for this conference and for the team that you and I love the most. But if he does not get a handle on and a grip on getting more qualified people to be SEC umpires and officials, it's going to continue to get worse. You and I have had this conversation at great length for a long time. And a lot of you have told me, Blake, I mean, they're just human. Human these nuts. Because why don't you have a box of the strike zone? You know why? Guys, because they suck. The SEC, it does. I remember this vividly because the SEC sent us the email and I couldn't find it. I would bring it up. The SEC, when they came out and said that they were going to shrink this strike zone last year, also said that the TV, the ESPN was going to put the boxes for the strike zone. They did that for one game. It wasn't even an LSU game. They did it for a Texas A&M game, and it was so bad that halfway through the second inning, they said they had technical malfunctions. They didn't have technical malfunctions. It was so bad, and you stopped it. But meanwhile, you know what? Let's have that fucking green base over there for safety, why don't we? There's nothing in this conference that is worse than SEC officiating and umpiring. Nothing. Nothing. When Jalen Milroe is scrambling and Harold Perkins got tackled, and I know for a fact that there are people around LSU that turned that play in. And the SEC said, yeah, sorry, we missed it. By the way, Jalen Milroe scored a touchdown on that play. Or, here's a doozy. When Jane Daniels got targeted and knocked out of a game because Dallas Turner is a dirty fucking player and you didn't overrule it because, well, all the SEC officials' wives go to the same country club. Did y'all know that? Can't have the wives being bickering with one another. We can't have the housewives of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, right? But here we are. Here we are. I will continue to say it as long as I got breath in my chest. We have to get a handle on, and look, you're making more money than, I don't know. I was going to say something, but in today's world, I'd get canceled for it. The SEC is filthy rich. Pay better people to be SEC officials and umpires. Instead of, hey, and here's a novel thought too. Instead of flipping schedules because you're lazy as shit, why don't you do your job and do some better scheduling for next year's football season? You know and I know that it's a joke. And until that there's change, it will remain the same. All right. That the Jane Daniels thing pisses me off more than anything. Because we're talking about a kid, and I say a kid, but the kid, we're talking about the kid that had a legitimate issue where a dirty player targeted. At least that's how I see it. I have enough video evidence of him throwing punches and doing shady shit that I can make a determination that I feel that it was dirty. I legitimately get to all 907 of you that's in here or was in here. I don't know how Twitter does this thing anymore. But to all 907 of you that's in here live right now, you and I both know that there's going to be a situation this upcoming fall that doesn't go your way, and it's going to cost you a game. It's coming. That's what she said. All right. It's just it's a joke. It's just, guys, it's a joke. You know it's a joke. I know it's a joke. All right. I'm already 50 minutes in. How about that? We do need to get to a preview. All right. Let me do this. Because we got so much we need to discuss, I haven't even previewed yet. Wofford, North Carolina, and Long Island iced tea. That's how I continue to remember them. Long Island University. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. Let me get to a quick break. We'll come back. We'll preview that. We'll get to some of your questions. We'll wrap up the show. Stay with us. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
All right. LSU is in the Chapel Hill Regional, so they'll either face North Carolina or Wofford at some point during this weekend. I do not believe that they are going to be able to face Long Island University or Long Island Ice-T, but they might, and we'll preview them when it's time. Basically, I'm going to wrap up the Long Island preview in 2 quick sentences. In every national statistical category outside of 2, they are in the hundreds when it comes to their statistics. They're a team that walks a lot. They're an older team. They also steal a lot of bases at 73, which is in the top 100. They're at 86. They are not a good team. They won their conference, the NEC, and they are in. They are a 4 seed. Now, I will remind you, and as I remind you and have reminded you over the last 5 years, at least one 4 seed comes out of a regional every single year to a supers. A team that was 33-23. I can't see them doing it, but if the time arises, we will break them down. But I want to start off with the team that's hosting this weekend in North Carolina. Look, I think that they're a very, very good team. Look, when I look at them, they have a top 15, or they are top 15 in batting average, top 15 in on base percentage, top 15 in slugging percentage. They're in the top 20s in home runs. They are in the top 15 in walks. They are pretty damn good offensively. Like, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's when you face North Carolina, because offensively they have been good all year long. I think they're 33-2 this year at home. They're number 4 in the RPI. They were 22-8 in conference this year. And the ACC didn't really suck. I mean, they had some teams. They were very top heavy. They did not suck this year. But they are a team and a pitching staff that has given up a lot of contact. Not only that, they are a team that struck out a lot at the plate. So they're going to hit for a lot of power, but guys like Jumpin' Holman have a very strong advantage of getting a lot of strikeouts. They will take a lot of pitches. They are not scared of getting deep in the counts and taking a lot of pitches. That is why they are top 15, actually number 12 in the country in walks. Now, in the tournament, they're 8th ranked. So we're doing national, and we also have tournament rank where they're top 10 in almost every offensive statistical category. A very, very good team. The thing that I look at, though, when it comes to North Carolina is I don't know if they've been battle-tested enough like LSU has. It's going to be a hell of a weekend, and it's a hell of a feat. Look, guys, they're a very good team. There's a reason that they are a national number 4 seed. If I'm not mistaken, you were number 4 last year, and you won the whole damn thing. I'm not saying that you're them. They have a lot of good players. Advanced kid, I think, is a top 15 pick. I think he is he's not Dylan Cruz, but he is a hell of an athlete. I think he's the best athlete. I'm going to say this. I think he's the best athlete in this tournament, and I don't think it's remotely close. They have home field advantage. Statistically, there's not a lot of things that they do wrong, but they give up a lot of contact. And when you're a team that has been very well known of giving up a lot of contact, the worst thing that they do as a staff is they do strike out a lot of guys. They also are prone to giving up a lot of hits and a lot of balls being put in play. With that being said, that really benefits your Tigers very much so, because the best team in the tournament, actually number 2, in putting balls in play, ironically, they have a high K rate, which is very ironic. LSU is number 3 in putting the ball in play in the tournament. So when I look at them, I look at their staff, I look at their team. Guys, you can't overlook them. They are very good. But guys, by the numbers, outside of batting average, you are a lot alike. And I think that you played a tougher schedule. I think you played tougher teams. I think that you have a lot of things in common. The one thing that I thought was interesting, both teams, it was said that they both had the 15 and 16 strength of schedule. I'm not necessarily buying that. That's neither here nor there. But LSU, and it's interesting that we look at this. LSU, they're 269th in the country in strikeouts. They're top 15 in walks. So I look at this LSU team and say to myself, look, man, we do K up a lot offensively. God, dog, do we take a lot of walks. Bear Jones took a lot of them as well. It's a park that can play, a park that you can hit in. When that wind's blowing out, there's going to be a lot of balls hit hard, a lot of balls hit deep. But an interesting conversation. We know, I think that LSU fans in general have a pretty good understanding and feel what they're getting into with North Carolina. The interesting thing is Wofford, because they're number one in the tournament in batting average. They're number one in the tournament in OPP, on base percentage. They're top 10 in slugging. They're top 15 in walks. And they're number one in the country when it comes to, or number one in the tournament with stolen bases at 140. Guys, you can't overlook them. And I put this out the other day, and it got misinterpreted by some, and some people obviously knew what I was trying to say. The question becomes on Friday, do you throw gauge jump? 1,000%. 1,000% too, because you got Luke Holman behind him too. But, guys, this is a team in Wofford that's going to throw a lot. Run a lot if they get on base. The thing that I have an issue with Wofford, and understand the conversation that a lot of you want to have about is Gage Jump going to throw on Friday, is, well, those stats aren't created equally. And that's what I was trying to say the other day when I tweeted about Wofford, the two best teams that they played, they lost to. They got run ruled by Georgia, and they lost to Kennesaw State. I look at a team like Wofford and say to myself, look, man, they're top 15 in fielding percentage, top 1 in every statistical category. They're top 7 in not allowing walks as a staff. But goddamn is their pitching staff. They got one guy that you'll see on Friday that's really good. Their bullpen and staff is not good. It just isn't. And you've seen better. I think a lefty helps you with guys running. And I think Gage Jump goes on Friday. I'd be surprised if he didn't. Very surprised if Gage Jump didn't go on Friday. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to trust in Jay Johnson. And not only that, and in trusting in Jay, I'm also going to say this, and it's going to get misinterpreted again. If Jay doesn't or decides not to throw Gage Jump on Friday, I fully understand it. Maybe you can go with Holman. I don't know. But I fully understand it. I just don't think they're better than you. And I don't think any tournament in this regional is better than you. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So look, you're in for a feat if you get North Carolina. You can't overlook Wofford. I just think statistically it's a lot of padded stats to the best team in their conference. Look, they went 12-8 in their conference. They weren't a good team in conference. The best teams they played, they got absolutely demolished. Their strength of schedule was 119th in the country. They had a shitty schedule. So did Long Island Iced Tea. Does Jay bullpen it on Friday? I don't know. I don't think that you can. I think that's a very big risk. And when you threw Skeens last year against Tulane, but Tulane was hot, and they won it, and they did it in a better conference. So I don't know. Let's get to a couple of your comments. Doug Ray says, I throw the bullpen on Friday if I'm Jay. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if you lose the game, then it's a massive issue. I think he's going to go with Gage. That's just what I think. There's nothing that shows me that he wouldn't. Paul Sub Martin says, Jump is going against Wofford. Jay has shown he has a must-win mindset in postseason. See Skeens against Tulane last year. And not only that, I mean, to Paul Sub's point, I mean, guys, Gage Jump, they talked about 3 weeks ago of him being on 4 days rest. Like, I mean, must-win mentality is a big thing for Jay, and I don't disagree with him. That's why I think, too, to Paul Sub's point, he's going to go on Friday. LS Shoe Tiger. I don't know if this is our good friend John Patton. He goes by LSU too. But he says, I agree. Jay has shown he throws his best arm in game one. Kind of frustrating, but we'll see what happens Sunday, Monday if needed. Yeah, we'll see. I just don't think that you can't chance it. You can't chance it. And who knows what South Carolina's going to do too. All right. We'll see y'all again tomorrow. 2 shows in one day. I know we missed a lot, but it's been really good. Until then, we'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.